Good morning to everyone. My name's Shaun Sookoo. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Winny's Kitchen. Essentially, just a little bit into kind of our background. I used to be a personal trainer, and my mum used to cook these ready meals for me to take to work. And it wasn't long before people started asking me questions about the food that I was eating. So just to make a bit of extra money, I decided to start selling it to my colleagues, and then it just became my business. So this business started down south. I relocated to the Midlands 2 years later to try and essentially make the dream happen, because I couldn't afford a large premises down south. And here I am now. The Midlands is my home, and yeah, we're trying to scale as much as possible. But being an entrepreneur, especially being a young entrepreneur without business-minded and experienced business individuals around me, I felt very kind of isolated in that there wasn't kind of much support available. But through the Growth Hub, I was actually introduced to ATETA, and I was pretty blown away at the support that is available. I was used to having challenges and finding a solution myself, and then kind of learning the hard way that there were kind of drawbacks to that solution. And then it's constantly kind of problem, solution, problem, solution. You feel like you're doing that on your own, but there is support available. So the challenge that ATETA helped me get to the bottom of was to do with our packaging. So we ship, just to put you in the picture, we ship frozen ready meals across the UK via a next day delivery service in insulated boxes. So these boxes are lined with insulated material and contain ice packs. And this keeps the food frozen during transit for that 24-hour period. Now, our first challenge was actually just eliminating plastic. And this is something that I took upon myself and managed to do. So we used to use plastic kind of takeaway style containers, Tupperware containers. And to eradicate that, I found this piece of packaging that you can see on the screen. So this eradicated some issues that we had, i.e. plastic when it's frozen is very brittle. And then during transit, we had, because you've got the likes of the couriers, the national couriers, who don't handle your product as well as you would if it was your own delivery drivers. We had a lot of breakages. So moving away from plastic had double benefits for us. Of course, looking after the environment, which is somewhere we wanted to focus as a company. And secondly, the fact that we wouldn't incur as many breakages. Now, the issue with this piece of, this packaging here, although it eradicated those issues and we were doing the best thing for the environment, it raised more challenges that I didn't foresee and I didn't experience due to, quite frankly, not enough testing from my behalf and not having that kind of scientific background to really be evaluating these decisions properly. So the issue was, as the food started to slowly thaw during that transit, the food being transported across the UK, this being a paper-based food carton actually started to get a little bit soggy. So in some cases, it led to customers, after them heating up their food, the container leaking and that kind of thing happening. So being a company that, yes, we've just eradicated plastic now, we're doing the best thing for the environment, we've brought in this new packaging, now this is where we are, and it's now not, it's got rid of one issue but then brought in another. I was stuck. So ATETA come along to the rescue. So we needed to find a solution. I was adamant that we are not going back. So we're not going back to plastic. That's not an option. So we need a plastic-free container that is more robust than the container that we're using at the moment. But the other properties it needs to have is it needs to be microwave friendly, it needs to be freezer safe, and ultimately it needs to perform all the jobs that we need to perform. So sorry, just next slide, please. ATETA found this solution for us. So this container is actually made from sugarcane pulp. So it's actually sugarcane, the byproduct of the manufacturing of sugar. The pulp that remains is then woven into fibers, and it almost has a feel of like an egg carton in terms of strength. But what this then eradicated was any kind of issues that we had in it was a lot more robust. We didn't have leaking containers. It also wasn't brittle like our previous plastic container, and it ticked all of the boxes for us. So ATETA, it was just absolutely fantastic. They were super efficient, super fast. We simply had an initial meeting, went through kind of all of my pain points and areas that we needed addressed. They went away, and whilst I was able to continue with usual business, this work was being done behind the scenes. And then the next call was to present their findings, and this was the solution that was presented. I was given all of the technical specification, where I could find it, even a cost analysis in comparison to what I was spending before. So I knew the kind of cost implications of moving over to this solution, where I could source it from, where it is originally manufactured. All of this information was presented, and all it cost me in terms of my resources was an initial call, which probably took half an hour to an hour. And they went away and found this amazing solution. So it really has put our company in a much stronger position, because of course the core of what we do, we're now 99.7% by weight plastic free as a company, in terms of how we ship our produce to our end customers. This is actually better than even what I asked for, because it's also oven safe as well, which wasn't something I originally required, but giving people that further kind of flexibility in how they actually enjoy our product was a great value add. So I'm eternally thankful to ATETA for their work, because being a young entrepreneur, you do feel as though it's you against the world, and without kind of understanding how these things work and the support that is available, it's been a godsend coming across ATETA. And since then, there's been other projects as well. I'll just talk very quickly about, it's sometimes not just about moving from one solution to another. Sometimes it's about ruling out potential avenues and actually confirming that maybe they're not the way to go to. So we looked into something called a retort process, which would mean they're basically shelf-stable ready meals on the market now, where they don't need to be frozen, they don't need to be refrigerated. And we wanted to explore that as a company to reduce our potential energy costs, because within our company, we have a hell of a lot of like big walk-in freezers, which of course consume a lot of energy. And then because our model is frozen food, to transport our goods to our end customers is very expensive, purely from an insulation perspective. So if there was a way in which we could eradicate the freezing process, eradicate cold holding of food, and not have to send our food insulated, it could potentially have some huge savings. ATETA came in to look at this project for us. I didn't know where to start in terms of how can we retort or essentially can our food so that it can be shelf stable and ambient temperature stable. They did all of the research, and we actually found that they again came back with a report. This is what this process entails. This is the equipment that you need to be able to buy. this is the energy input, because of course, although we're saving energy in storage with freezers, this is the amount of energy required to put food through this pasteurization process to actually get it shelf stable. And what we then found was, as a company, and a small company where we currently are, there were two, one, the initial investment was vast, but two, the amount of energy required to input into this process, it was neither here nor there whether there would be an overall energy saving. And with that kind of uncertainty, it just made it very, it assured us that the right decision to make was actually to stick with our existing business model and not progress. So definitely, again, that research would have taken me a hell of a long time. And I probably wouldn't have got, in fact, I can guarantee I wouldn't have, the findings I would have found wouldn't have been as conclusive. And I probably would have found out the hard way the amount of energy that we would have had to input in order to process our food in that way. So ATETA, fantastic in knowing where to go, but also where not to go. So that's pretty much everything from kind of my experience. But my advice to anyone is just tap in, just really, we're very, very fortunate to have these kind of this kind of support available, and it's been hugely beneficial for me, so I couldn't recommend them enough.